Hello, welcome to Aspire to Soar. My name's Kerry, and today I am joined by Claire, who is going to share with us her journey of how she healed herself from a chronic condition. Just before we get started, I do just want to say that neither Claire or myself are medical professionals. This is just Claire's story that we're sharing, and we want to share it with you today. So welcome to the channel, Claire. Thank you. Here.
Thank you for having me today.
So first of all, can you tell us a bit about the condition that you had? What was it called and how it affected you?
Yes, so I was first diagnosed with ME, and then I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, postpartum thyroidism. So every time I had a child, my thyroid went overactive for 6 months and then went underactive for 6 months and then settled. So then I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I guess the fibromyalgia was one of the worst ones out of all of them. The Hashimoto's affect my immune system a lot, and my immune system attacks itself. So that was difficult to deal with that. But nobody really knew, like the doctors at the time, the doctors didn't know what fibromyalgia really was. We're talking 17 years ago.
Wow.
So that's a long time. That was when I had my first child. So I had pins and needles in my hands and my arms. That's how it first started. Then my legs would go numb. I had migraines, headaches, vision problems, speech problems. I couldn't walk. My mobility was affected. I didn't sleep very well. The pain that I had all over my body was horrendous at times. I mean, I could list probably about 100 symptoms, probably more, that comes with fibromyalgia.
It's scary as well when the doctors don't know what's really happening to you, and then your body's flaring with all of these symptoms. Imagine it's quite scary, especially with young children as well.
It definitely was. I remember so after months and months of dealing with this, I remember going to the doctors and saying, look, you need to help me. What's wrong with me? Something's wrong with my body. I don't know what it is. And he looked at me and said, you do realise, Mrs. Boyd, this is all in your head. And I went home and cried. And I thought, I'm getting no help from the doctors. I was in an abusive marriage at the time. So I was getting abused at home. So that was very difficult. And then having to deal with this chronic health condition at the same time as well. Very isolated. We moved to a different town from where I was brought up. So I was very isolated. I had no friends. My family weren't, really close by to me to really talk to people and to get help.
So did the doctors start trying to help you with medication? Did they give you medication to try and stop all of these symptoms that you kept going with? Yeah. How much medication were you on?
So I rattled. I was on about 30 tablets a day.
Oh, wow.
So much painkillers, antidepressants they put me on. They sent me to the pain clinic, but all they could really offer me was helping me to manage my pain. And that was to do with pacing, so being careful what you're doing during the day. So really, in some ways that helped, because it made me more aware of the energy I was using and what energy to conserve.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it made me think mentally, if I do this, I'm going to be ill tomorrow. So I was almost predicting how I was going to feel that next day or, in half an hour. So then mentally, it changed for me, and then I started to worry and have fear around my illness, and it was just a bad cycle.
Wow, I can't imagine how hard it must be, especially going to bed every night and thinking, here we go again in the morning, and you wake up and you reaffirm that to yourself again. This is going to hurt. It's going to be hard getting out of bed, and this is never ending.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially when you've got children to look after as well.
Yeah, that was really difficult. That was hard, especially when they were young. And my second child is on the spectrum, so we had difficulties in other areas. So that was very difficult. Finding a balancing act to have energy for the kids and then energy for myself.
Wow. So when was the point when you thought, that's it, I can't do it anymore? Your sort of your lowest point, when the point when you thought, I can't do this anymore, something needs to change.
Well, it took a lot of years. So I had a lot of changes along the way. But 4 years ago, we'd moved to a new house the year before, and I had to get a stair lift fitted in our house because I couldn't walk up the stairs and I couldn't walk down the stairs. My condition was so bad. I was on so much medication still. And I thought, is this it? Is this my life? Is this how I'm going to be for the rest of my life? I couldn't go out. I wasn't seeing my friends. I didn't see family very often. I was isolated, moved to a new town. And I was sitting in my bedroom one night and I had an email. Now, I've always worked spiritually on myself, which has been great, but it wasn't working internally to help heal myself. So some of the courses that I used to do with Hay House were really, really good. And I had an email pop up and it said, if you want this free healing session, 20 minutes, contact me. And I just pushed the button. I just pushed the button straight away. And then afterwards I thought, oh no, what have I done? I don't know who this lady is. I don't know what she does. I don't know what healing she does. And because I'm very spiritual and I've worked with my guides and for a lot of years, so I'm very confident when I hear their voices, and they said to me, just stay with it, keep going, you have to speak to this lady, everything's going to be okay. So I decided, right, I'll just do it. So we booked the session for the next day, and a lovely lady, Dana Williams, an EFT specialist like yourself,
yeah.
And she asked me to fill out this application form. So I filled it all out and I had to write a list of what I had, medically wrong with me, and list all my medications. So we sent that over, and we came to a decision after the first phone call that we would like to work with each other and that she'd like to record me. So that's what we did for the next 3 years. And we worked together for 3 years, very intensely, mostly on a weekly basis. Some weeks I couldn't manage because it was working on all the abuse and the fear that I'd had since childhood.
Yeah. So
working on childhood trauma. So some weeks I couldn't manage, but mostly it was every week.
Wow.
And I was so glad that I hit that button. That was the start, that was the turning point. And we realized that I've been living my life in fear. And we feel that it was fear that triggered the fibromyalgia response in my body all those years later. And that's when we started working. We started working on the childhood trauma, taking me back to things that had happened in my past. My father was very controlling and he had a lot of fear himself. Took it out on me and my brother.
Yeah.
And my mum, bless her, she had a lot of fear and anxiety as well, which then from her childhood, her mother died when she was 13 years old. Oh. And it was a very slow, painful death to watch. And that affected her and her whole family. And so she brought that then into her relationships. And my dad brought that into his relationship with my mum. And I didn't realize all this ancestral damage from the past can affect us now in the present and follow on to the children. So not only was I dealing with that and their fear, I was dealing with my fear as well, that they were putting on to me. And then because my dad was in the army, we had to travel around the world all the time. And, you know, you're making friendships, you're settling down, and then you're getting taken away again.
Yeah.
So living life very unsettled, full of anxiety. But it was so good to finally find the missing pieces. Like when you have an illness like that, a chronic illness, it's so difficult trying to understand, I'm ill like this, but how do I get better? The doctors are giving me this medication, which is, you know, helping things a little bit, but it's actually not helping me mentally, and it's not actually helping me to move on. Although I totally agree with Western medication, there's instances where you need to use Western medication, and it does help, and I have to use that myself sometimes. But definitely using the holistic approach with EFT, energy medicine, all these different things definitely help too.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, for people to know that as well, because we don't necessarily understand the effect of ancestral history, your own history. We don't make those links. We don't realize, because we're just in this mix of symptoms, and it's hard to think beyond what's happening to you and what's happening to your body right at that moment. So it's incredibly difficult to pull out. And I think it's an incredibly brave thing that you did, pressing that button to speak to that lady. Is just, it must have been so incredibly difficult to actually follow through with that after you've gone with your first initial instinct to follow it through. Is really, really hard, because, like you say, you don't know what's going to happen. And then for you to be able to accept what she was telling you about maybe digging into these parts, you might make these changes, is huge, because that's a really difficult thing to try and understand. And I know we were talking last week about how the clinical guidelines have now changed as well. So for people who have got chronic pain, the guidelines have now changed, where they are not going to be giving out pain medication for it. As standard, the protocol now from the National Institute of Health is to seek mental health help and to take antidepressants. They're the two main go-tos before you would go anywhere near painkillers. So it's so important for people to be able to recognise that there are ways, I think, of moving through this, instead of being stuck in it, if that makes sense.
That's right. Well, for instance, the pain medication that I was on at one point, they had me taking a painkiller that was really strong, and it ended up affecting my bladder. So it affected the base of my spine, and my brain weren't talking to each other properly. So I was nearly diagnosed with Fowler's syndrome because of this. And following working with Dana, I started to come off medication as I was healing along the way.
Yeah.
Very slowly. It was a very slow process, and it was in conjunction with my doctor. So I went to the doctor and explained the situation, that I was working with this lady and we were doing EFT, and I would like to start slowly coming off some of my medication, and to see how I am, to see if I actually need this medication anymore. And when I came off of this pain medication, my bladder problems went away. Wow. It was like a miracle.
Yeah.
So, but then afterwards I researched it, and this is a thing. This painkiller actually stops, can interfere with the spine and the brain talking with each other. It's actually known that can happen. But yet every single time I kept going back to the doctors and saying, I've got this wrong with me, I've got this wrong with me. And, you're getting sent to all these specialist departments, urology and all these different places. But yet this information is out there that if you're taking this medication, this can happen.
Interesting.
And it's like, the holistic approach, it would be so nice to see that within the medical industry as well.
Yes.
To blend the two together.
Yes, definitely. And for there to be a lot more conversation between departments as well, so that these things can be recognised, I think. If somebody had, in one department had read the notes from another department, then there may have been a lot less tests for you to have to go through, which I imagine were probably invasive as well.
Very invasive, yes.
Yeah.
Very invasive, quite traumatic, some of the things that I went through. But I was so happy to find out, when you're a woman and you're a young woman and you have things like bladder problems, it can be very disheartening, very depressing, and worrying that you're going to have that for the rest of your life. That's a big thing. I was so happy when I stopped the medication, and my body started to recalibrate. And I think I learned a lot from the EFT. Your body learns to recalibrate through healing itself. And actually, we have a weather report. So our body can read our weather report. So if you actually stop and listen, what's going on with your symptoms, with your body, your body's telling you things to help heal you. And when you stop and listen and feel and slow down, you can actually pick these things up and start to help to heal.
Yeah, because your body doesn't want to be sick. Your body wants to be healthy, it wants to work, and it's like you say, it's showing you these things because it wants to be better. It's trying to fix itself from the symptoms that you're receiving. So what was your doctor's reaction when you told them that you were doing this? Were they interested? Were they sympathetic?
My doctor was quite surprised at first, because normally I would go in and say, I've got this problem, and then they would, take this.
Yeah.
So I was actually going in that day and I'm saying, okay, I want to come off my medication. And he kind of looked at me and went, really? So he seemed quite excited, and he was very supportive of me coming off of the medication. On a few occasions, I was quite concerned because I was worried about withdrawal symptoms.
Yes.
That was my main worry.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it really slowly. We came down very slowly off my medication. Mm-hmm. And one of the ones that I was really happy about was my antidepressants, because I'd been on them for well over 15 years. So that was a long time. And the pain medications, I was so happy to come off of them. I mean, I was on pain medication every 2 hours. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of medication. Yeah. So yeah, he was very supportive. Oh. Maybe not as excited as that I would have wanted him to be. But, they are doctors, and maybe, I get excited about healing. I get excited about the healing work that I do. Yes. And to see, my clients start to heal holistically, yes. that makes me excited. So I know it's different. It's a different way of healing people.
Exactly.
But yeah, I was pleased with his support.
Yeah, that's good. It's nice that he did give you that support, and he helped you to do that. So did you just use the EFT, or did you make other lifestyle adjustments while you were doing it, or was it just you just did the EFT and took it from there?
Well as the EFT, we did some spiritual work with that too. So we did work with archangels, we did meditations, mm-hmm. We did clearings, and we also Dana introduced me to Donna Eden's energy medicine. That's been a life changer for me. So that helps your meridian system.
Yeah.
So it's doing certain tapping and exercises, and you can get her YouTube channels free, so anyone can do that. They have sitting down exercises, standing up exercises. So depending on a person's ability, everyone can do it. And she's quite an inspirational character. She learned this when she was young and being in a wheelchair, and now she's not in a wheelchair and she's gone around the world teaching. So it's magical. I do that every day in my life now. I wouldn't be without it.
And what we'll do as well, we'll put a link to her channel underneath the video as well, so people can have a click through and go and have a look and see what they can find, because it's really helpful to be able to have some things that you can put into action.
Absolutely.
So how long did it take for you to start to see these results? Was it slowly, or did you start noticing inside you pretty much straight away when you shifted something, when you moved something, the difference in your body? How did that go?
It was a slow process at first, because I was so unwell. I remember I've taken photographs of the beginning to now, and I did it sort of on a weekly basis. And in the first photograph, in the first video, there's nothing behind my eyes. I'm dead behind the eyes. I've just had enough, and I was overweight. I was eating the wrong foods, I was drinking the wrong drinks. So working, when you do an EFT, it is hard work. You know, you have to put that hard work in. You can't just expect results to happen. So we were doing it on, say, on a Monday, and then all the way through until the next Monday, I had to then work all through that week, through my emotions, through interacting with family members. And a lot of my issues were with family members. Mm-hmm. So I was having to see those family members on a weekly basis, and then have to deal with the trauma that was being brought up. So yeah, it was a slow process, but I got to learn to stand up for myself. And it was seeing myself mentally change as well as physically change, and realizing that I had power. I reclaimed my power back. Yeah. That's what I did. I took my power back, because all my life I've given my power away. And it was learning to, I mean, you can't ever get rid of fear, because fear is a natural part inside of us that we need to have sometimes. Yeah. But it's learning to work with that, and not to let it overcome you and overpower you. And that was something, that was a key moment when I started learning how to do that. That changed my relationships. I actually stood up to my father, and he now respects me, and he talks very differently to me now compared to how he spoke to me before my change. Yeah.
And I'm imagining it might have been, but I'm imagining that wasn't a big confrontation where you went in and said, let me tell you all about how you damaged me in the past. I imagine it was more of a...
No, it was just bring them up, you know, like, say for it, like this happened one day. So we were putting the shopping in the car, and he was shouting at me and saying, don't do that, do this, you know, was very controlling. And I said, don't speak to me like that, please, Dad. I don't want you to speak to me like that anymore. I'm a grown adult. If you want to tell me that you would like me to put bags somewhere else, and that's okay, but I do not want you to speak to me like that anymore. And, you know, he kind of looked and he was a little annoyed, but then he probably thought about that. And it's just like every time something like that happened, I was able to speak up for myself and say something. So that was a gradual process as well. But the great thing that happened with that was my mum then started standing up for herself with my dad, because she was witnessing me do it. Yeah. So my mum has taken her power back through this process as well, and it's helped heal generations before me, and I hope generations after me too, and with my children, and then their, you know, however they go with their lives after as well.
Yeah, and they've been able to see their mum go through this transformation from, you know, how you were to how you are now. It's huge, and for them to witness that, and that'll always be there for them. They'll always know that, and they'll always know that your power's there, and they can have it. It's theirs to have, and that's just amazing.
It is very powerful.
Yeah. So what did it feel like for you then when you started feeling better and these changes started happening and your medication started coming down? How did that feel inside you, knowing that you were doing it?
I think it took a long time for me to see the impact, but week by week, as my confidence was growing, it was actually other people that were saying things. So other people were saying, oh, you look different. Oh, you're glowing differently. Oh, you're doing this now. And I even started doing different things, like joining new groups, finding new interests. Yeah. So my line was, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. So whenever I was in a situation where I felt uncomfortable, I would say, okay, it's okay, I'm uncomfortable here. I'm going to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. It's okay that I'm feeling this way, and other people might be feeling this way, but I'm still going to be here because I want to be here. Mm-hmm. And it was just flipping that script and changing. That completely changed things for me, and just getting out there and doing new things, exploring life again. And I mean, now I love life now. I'm out. I love going on adventures. The other day I I decided to get my bike, and I was going to go to the train station, go a few stops along, and then cycle back home. But the trains were off. So then I decided to go along the local coastal path. And I mean, it was quite isolated and the terrain was quite tricky at some points, but I did it and I was away for hours. Cycled there and cycled all the way back. I mean, I couldn't even think about that possibility, 5-6 years ago. That the thought wouldn't have even entered my head that I'd be doing things like that.
No, that's crazy. From stairlift to cycling miles on your own and the freedom that must feel so free to be able to do that now, when you were so restricted before in your life and what you could do. I can't imagine what that freedom must feel like.
It's absolutely amazing. I love it. I love being free. I love to get up in the morning, like, what am I going to do today? Every day's a new day. I've got choices. I can make choices now, and I can do different things. So I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for having my healing journey and having the courage to do it as well. It does take courage.
Yeah, I think it's just unbelievably brave to be able to say, no, I'm doing it. I'm taking my power back and I'm doing it. And I know that's technically not what you really say to yourself at the beginning, because you're in somewhere inside you, that's what's happening. Yeah, and
exactly.
It's amazing. So when you finally came off all of your medication, did your doctor say anything about it? Was your doctor amazed? Did they want to pass it on to other people? Has anything happened from that, or was it just a process of you're off now, that's great, off you go?
Yeah, unfortunately that happened. So there was a few things that I did as well. So I looked at the inside of my body, and I looked up all the information and researched and realized that 70% of our immune system's in our gut. So I decided I would start trying to heal the inside of me as well, because I damaged a lot of inside of me because I'd been drinking fizzy juice. I smoked when I was younger, and lots of different toxins that were inside my body. Even the toxins from the environment that we're in, can affect us inside. So I started brewing my own kombucha and drinking that. That was full of probiotics. I took probiotic tablets. Was very careful. I went vegan. So I started really noticing and being careful what I was putting inside my body. And that made a difference with my energy levels as well.
Yeah, that's some big changes though, isn't it? Is doing that, it's some big changes. Did you just follow your inner guidance for that? Did you, or was it, things that you came across things and tried them out as you went along? Because going from a standard Western diet to eating a whole food plant-based diet is a really big switch. So was it reading other people's testimonials about that came through? Was there someone that you saw and you thought, wow, or was it just a listening to your body intuition thing?
It was a gradual process. So whilst looking up online and on the internet and magazines that I'd seen lying about, I saw that people were having good results by going vegan and having kombucha. And the more I learned about one thing, you get taken to another thing, and and then your eyes are opened. It's like another little world. So it was a case of just looking around and using my intuition and listening to my body. And I think through the EFT and listening to my weather report and learning to listen to my body wanted healthy food. My body wanted to be healthy inside, and it wanted to make changes. So a lot of it was my intuition as well.
And it's just so underestimated, that importance of just listening and say, just tune in. I like the way you called it a weather report, and you listen to your body's daily report about what's happening, how it feels, and then going from there. I love that, actually. That's a really nice way to think about it, instead of what's wrong, oh,
Exactly.
that's hurting, oh no, you know, that's just my body. And we don't realize how we talk to our bodies and the way that we are with them, instead of like you say, listening and appreciating it and saying thank you for letting me know about that today. I'll see what I can do.
That's right.
Yeah,
that changed things for me.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, you know, it's that, oh, I'm going to be sore if I do this. And now it's, you know, when I wake up and listen to my weather report, if I am a bit sore, I'll maybe have a rest, or actually exercise is good. So when I was really unwell, I didn't like to exercise. I didn't like to walk very far. I'd had instances where I'd collapsed and needed a wheelchair to take me somewhere. So those kind of things put me off. But actually, especially with something like fibromyalgia, exercise is very, very good. And the more exercise you do, and the fitter and the healthier you get, the stronger you get, and you do feel better. And it's realizing that although you can be in pain sometimes, there's actually good pain and then there's bad pain. So pushing yourself with exercise and you're in a little discomfort and you're painful, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's a response from your body that's normal. So it's learning, it's relearning about pain, relearning about your body's weather report and what's good and what your body needs.
Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody sat at home right now, where you were in that position, you know, they can't get around on their own, they're not mobile, they need a stairlift to get up and down the stairs, and things are, you know, at the worst point. Do you have any advice that you would give to them for somewhere that they could start and move themselves forward if they wanted to go and investigate and look into it? Is there any websites you used, or the healers that you used? Where would you suggest that somebody starts?
I mean, absolutely, Dana Williams, for sure. That's where my journey first started, was with her, and Donna Eden. I also used YouTube quite a lot. So there was a great YouTube channel. I can't remember what it's called, but if you type in chair yoga for people with arthritis,
yeah,
that will come up. So I started doing chair yoga, and I did a little bit of physio. So I got myself one of those big, huge gym balls.
Yeah.
And even just doing like moving from side to side. I mean, obviously you'd have to speak to a physio or somebody if you needed advice on how to start, or your doctor. But just starting to build your muscles up, because I had no muscles at all.
Yeah.
So building your muscles up with little exercises like that, then you can go on and start walking a little bit further. I have to say my bike has been the most amazing thing for me, because some days I didn't want to walk too far and I couldn't, but cycling made it easier. So I could go further with my bike than I could with my feet.
Yeah.
So it's making those little changes. And once you start to build your body up, you know, you start to feel good mentally as well, because the endorphins are going around your body as well.
Yes, it's amazing. And I will link those in the description box underneath, so if people want to click through and find the people that you talked about. I'll try and find the chair yoga one as well, and I'll link them down there so that people can just click through and go and have a look and see if anything fits with them and if anything feels good. But yeah, like you said, you can always, you know, talk to your doctor about what you're planning to do, if you're going to plan to do anything, and make sure that everything works with you, because we're all different.
Exactly. And it's about small changes. I mean, you know, sometimes when you have a chronic illness, even sometimes getting up and out of your bed that day is too much of a thought, you know, or climbing the stairs. So it's about making those little changes and knowing that you've got that goal that you want to go towards, and you can't just jump, you can't dive right in, you know, it's small changes.
Yeah, don't think you can just get up tomorrow and throw all your medication away and you'll be okay, because that's not, it's a slow process, and it's important to go through the process to heal, because like you say, you're healing inside your body, both mentally and physically. So it's a lot, you know, it's a process.
It is.
So, yeah, and it's a commitment,
a very big commitment. You've got to be ready for it, and you've got to commit to it.
Yeah, but worth it when you can say, I went from stairlift to cycling miles and miles and miles on my own.
Absolutely.
It's worth it.
Best thing I've done.
Yeah. So I know you're working now in your own practice. So if people want to find you and see what you do, what you're about, or even talk to you, where can they go to find you?
Yes, well, I've got my website, which is clairvoyant.co.uk.
Yeah.
And all the information will be on there. I'm on Facebook too, and just send me a message if anyone wants to reach out or chat.
Brilliant. And I'll link them below as well, so that people can find everything together all easy in one place. I'll pop them underneath as well. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Claire. I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing this story with people. That is your personal story, and that I know there's somebody out there that really needs to hear this, and it's important. So thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story.
And thank you everybody for watching, and we'll be back soon with more stories. Thank you. Bye bye.